Hello, beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, and also to help you deepen in your connection with your angels and the wisdom of your soul. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I do this through one-on-one angel sessions, which I have to say are so beautiful. If you are seeking some one-on-one time with the angels and myself, it would be a blessing to facilitate a session for you. They are done over the phone, and you can find more information about them at my website, illuminatingsouls.com. I also offer one-on-one soul mentoring, which provides for consistent support as you navigate a time of change or growth in your life. And I also offer a variety of classes and circles for you. So there are lots of ways for us to connect. But for now, I am here to help lull you to sleep. So the way this podcast works is we're going to have about 20 minutes or so of some rambling, and I'll call in the angels, and we'll share some spiritual encouragement and vibrational light with you. And then I'll tell you a story. The session will be about an hour long, so you have plenty of time to drift off. And all you have to do is cozy on up and snuggle on in. And the angels and I will do the rest. One of the beautiful things about angelic energy is it is very compatible with sleep. It is not uncommon when I am channeling that people feel sleepy. And my angels love to say, it is not because we are boring, but it is because often when the higher frequencies come in, we begin to drift away a little bit because it is one of the more efficient ways of taking in the energy. So even as I am speaking to you now, the angels are helping to craft a loving, sweet space of sanctuary for you. The beautiful thing about angels is they already know you. They're team you. They are aware of everything that is happening to you. They know the deepest part of your heart. They know what is causing you challenge. They also know what is bringing you delight. And so they know what kind of energy to bring to you to help you rest. So I invite you to take a nice deep breath in and out. And you have done enough for today. And it is time for you to let the day go as best you can, so that you can come into that beautiful mystery that is our sleep cycle. And just take a breath in and out. And yesterday I had the blessing of connecting with a friend I haven't talked to in a while. And she shared with me that she has been listening to the podcast. And so I want to say thank you. And thank you to all of you who are listening. At this point in the life phase of this podcast, we still have an intimate audience, which in some ways is very sweet. So it made my heart so happy to know that the podcast is supporting her and that it is supporting you too. So if you are enjoying the podcast, feel free to drop me a note and let me know that, or leave a review on iTunes or Google Play. That'd be awesome. But when we were talking, I was sharing with her one of my favorite ways to ask for help from the angels. And I promised her I would use this as inspiration for the next episode, which is this one. So I'm going to share with you what it is. So, something you may not know about me, I don't like to work hard. I hope that doesn't lower your opinion of me. You know, there's certain traits that each one of us have carried since childhood. And I have come to recognize that one of mine is the strategy of doing the least amount of work to get the most efficient results. So, for instance, how this played out for me as a student growing up, I would do just enough work to get the B, but I would not work hard enough to get the A. I knew I didn't want to be a C student, and I knew that it was not important enough for me to be an A student, so I was good with the B. I was good with just enough. Like, how much do you need me to show up? Okay, that's how much I'll show up. Unless, and this is so key, unless it was something I wanted to do, then you couldn't keep me from it. And so one of my life strategies has been to know when I feel like I'm ready to leave it all on the field. Because I do when there's something that I want, when there's something that's important to me, I absolutely apply myself. But I'm digressing. So here's the strategy I shared with my friend that I will share with you. As we're navigating life, whether it is a challenge or maybe you have a creative inspiration or a dream that comes into your heart that sounds delicious to you, it's not uncommon to feel intimidated by devising a strategy for moving forward. Like, this feels hard. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And this is my pearl of wisdom to you in response. Ask the angels to help make it easy for you. Doesn't that sound audacious? Like, okay, angels, if you want me, and then fill in the blank. If you want me to write my book, if you want me to drive across the country, if you want me to go back to grad school, please help make it easy. And I use this strategy all the time. Actually, this strategy is why you're listening to this podcast right now. I was facilitating my Tuesday Circle of Light. It is this beautiful, beautiful ongoing group that I facilitate on Tuesdays. So if you ever want to join, we renew every month. And back in September, I think we were working with sparks of inspiration. I don't quite remember, but I wrote down a list of sparks of inspiration, and this podcast was one of them. And I could feel it calling to me, but I also knew I did not have a lot of energy or life force to meet it if it was going to be hard. And so I said to the angels, help make this easy. How do I make this easy? And they showed me, and it's not overly complicated. Basically, for me, what it felt like was, we'll plug in the microphone. I already owned my Yeti microphone, and I already had the program Audacity on my computer, which I knew how to use from the last time I did a podcast. And they said, just plug in the microphone and start recording. Let it be easy. And I created my artwork for it. Again, make it easy. I found an image I liked and just made up my own artwork. I could have hired someone to do a logo, and maybe I will at some point. And then all I had to do was choose a host and publish it. Now, all of those elements I just described to you were easy for me. I recognize they might not be easy for you, but everything I just described to you is in my wheelhouse and did not feel difficult. The part that felt hard for me was the launch, or marketing it, or setting up separate social media channels for it, making lots of social media posts for it. I haven't been interested in that part. I don't have the energy for it. So I let it be easy, and I've let it be imperfect. I'm doing my own sound editing, so in today's episode you may be hearing some ambient clunking. There are gardeners working across the street, and I didn't want to wait to record. So we get to ask for ease. There's another creative dream that is on the list, and I'm still attuning to what the path of ease will be for it, because it feels rather intimidating. But here's what happens when I ask for ease. It's an invitation for me to contemplate it differently than the way I had been holding it. So anytime I'm holding something in a way where it feels difficult and I ask for ease, it's an invitation to open up my consciousness to contemplate it differently. The same thing will happen to me in business. I may think I'm going to be teaching one class, and maybe no one signs up. This just recently happened. I thought I was going to be teaching a class, and the energy never met me there. And I said, I guess it's not meant to be right now. But in the meanwhile, 2 other programs have downloaded to me. One is already happening, which I love. Another I'm super excited about. It's something I have not offered before, and I can't wait to tell you about it, but it's not quite ready for that. But I really invite you to give yourself permission to ask for ease. You know, there've been all kinds of adages we have absorbed in our life. And I'm not saying there's never a place for hard work. I hope you don't hear in what I'm sharing that I don't see the value of working hard. I think, if you're building a house, if you're putting in your new garden, whatever it is, raising children, it involves hard work. There are things in life that require hard work. But the pearl of wisdom I want to share with you is that we also have the opportunity to ask for ease, for things to be easy as often as possible. It's not an all or nothing scenario. I just mean, if there's somewhere that you're holding for something in a place of contraction, like this is so hard, I don't know that I can do this. If you're efforting, if you're in a pattern of resistance, ask the angels to help clear the way and make it easy for you, or make it easier for you. You know, sometimes just a few degrees of a shift make all the difference in the world. So take a breath in and let it out. And as I call in the angels, I invite you to expand your relationship with ease. Listen, not everyone has a good relationship with ease. It's weird, like things can get energetically, vibrationally twisted up somehow in our patterns of consciousness. So we're going to bring some healing in so that it is easier for you to open to receive ease. So let me call the angels in. They're already here. So beautiful angels on high, we invite you to join us here. Angels, I ask that you infuse this broadcast with beautiful, soft, loving frequencies of light that make it graceful for each one of the beloveds who is listening now to flow into a restful, replenishing state of sleep. Angels, I ask that you clear and balance our energy fields so that it makes it easier to receive the divine love and the divine support that is here for us. And angels, if there is anywhere within our consciousness of our belief systems or ways of traveling through life where perhaps we have overcomplicated something or perceived that it is more difficult than it need to be, that you help to bring in waves of grace and ease and help us to come in alignment so that it is easier for us to receive. Angels, I ask that you bring forward waves of healing and compassion and understanding so that each of the beloveds listening to this message will feel the grace of your love. So, dear ones, just take another deep breath in and out. And if you have any prayers or intentions that you wish to share with the angels, I invite you to do so quietly or silently now. The angels are receiving your prayers and amplifying them in the heart of God. My hope for you is that the angels will help you find portals of grace whenever possible. That you are learning to cultivate a relationship with the divine assistance and support that is here for you. And I also want you to know that you can never overtax the angelic support system, that even when significant events are happening in the world or around you, that you can still ask for support from the angels. It's not going to take them away from something more important. You know, it's sort of when you soak up the sun, you are not keeping the sun from those who are in darkness. So please allow yourself to heal from any notion that God's love and God's support is somehow finite. As you open to greater ease, you awaken even more of your divine intuition. So that your higher self, or your soul self, the angels and God, can support you in whatever you are moving forward with. So when you ask for ease, you're not saying, I'm not willing to work for it. You know, the navigation systems we use nowadays, they use their intelligence to help us get around traffic jams and find the easiest way forward, right? The quickest point to our destination. And if that works with our phones, of course it can work with God, right? We're calling on your soul's GPS. Help make this path beautiful. Help bring as much ease as is available to me as I take this journey. Help me find my way through grace. Of course it is available to you. It may not always look like what you think it'll look like. It may not show up the way you want it to. And absolutely there are transits of life that are very difficult. But even in the darkness, there is kindness. And there is love. So take a breath in and let it go. So, where would you like to experience greater ease right now? And just put it into the light. You don't have to know how it'll show up. You don't need to know how to achieve greater ease. Just take a breath and bring a few areas of life into your heart. And then the next step is to be willing to be open to receive. So usually how I work with it is I bring it into my heart and then I open my awareness. Not necessarily right in that instant, but it's like I set the intention. I ask angels, help me find a greater path of ease here. How can I step into greater grace where this is concerned? And then over the coming days, I gently contemplate it and I notice, how are my inner thoughts shifting? What is coming into my awareness? Sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it is subtle, but never have I been left alone. It comes in its own time and space. It's like planting seeds. When you plant a garden, not everything blossoms, but almost always beauty is born, right? So this is the invitation to ask for some help in cultivating more ease. It doesn't mean everything in your life will be easy breezy. It doesn't mean as some things in your life are still hard that the angels have abandoned you. Some moments of life and some aspects of life are hard. Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. But I am all for maximizing the level of ease that is available. So take a breath in. Breathe in the vibration of ease. Just let it come into your energy field and help melt away any stress, allowing divine ease and grace to flow into you vibrationally. Because divine ease and grace has a way of cultivating more resourcefulness and more opportunities for you. And in this moment, the angels and I will also say a prayer on your behalf that greater grace and ease becomes available to you in a way that will delight your spirit, that will bring you a sense of relief and buoyancy. I don't know why that word came forward. I love it though, buoyancy. Isn't that wonderful? And I will take a deep breath in and out with you as I feel the blessings of love pouring across your timeline, past, present, and future. I feel the blessings of love the angels have for you, the light that is streaming in for you now as the angels pray on your behalf. You are a beloved child of God. You are a blessing in this world. The angels are here to help you open to the beauty and brightness of your true spirit. You are wonderful, and it is truly a blessing to help you remember all that you are. So you take a nice deep breath in and out and allow your body to just receive this wave of relaxation and light, a soothing, calming energy. And while you rest, the angels will watch over you. And I'm going to tell you a story. So, I don't know how many of you had an opportunity to listen to the previous episode, episode 28. But I shared with you some food memories because food is one of my favorite things. And I thought it would be fun, sort of as a companion to that episode, to share with you about another one of my favorite things, which is television. Now, before you groan and judge me, although I know none of you will because you are beautiful earth angels and you will love me. But you know how some people go, I don't even own a television. I don't ever watch television. I'm not one of those. I have loved television since childhood. It was my career for a while. I went to college to study television. If you get a chance, I did another episode about that. If you look for the episode about Goldwyn, that was the company that I worked for. I share a little bit about that. But here's where I thought we could travel tonight about my love affair with television, and perhaps yours as well. It has to do with television and my childhood. So I was raised in the 60s and 70s. For any of you over 40 years old, you likely remember life before cable television, where we would have 500 channels, and also before VCRs. And for those of you who are young enough, you might not even know what a VCR is. It stands for a video cassette recorder. You know, now we live in a time where we get to stream and binge watch and time shift and have instant access to whatever we wanted to watch. But when I was growing up, it was not that way. So I grew up in Chicago, and we had a small black and white television. We didn't even have a color TV at that point. I don't mean to make that sound like that was a huge tragedy. I just mean that was just the way it was. We had a black and white television set, and we had, I think, one television set in the living room. And we may at some point have had another television in the basement, but it didn't work as well. So the key viewing area in our home was the living room. And again, it's not as if each of us kids had our own TV. We all had to be in agreement, which didn't always happen. So you would have my mom and my dad and my sister and I and our brother. And at the time, the television stations that were available to us, we had Channel 2, which was CBS, Channel 5, which was NBC, Channel 7 was ABC, Channel 9 was WGN, which is now a superstation. It was not growing up. Channel 11 was our PBS station. And Channel 32 was independent programming. And just as an aside, that is where I got my start in television. I had my internship at WFLD TV, Channel 32. So the way television was consumed back then is you would watch what was on live because it wasn't an option to do anything but that, watching what was on live. And you couldn't watch two programs at once, right? So you had the shows you watched, and that was it. And maybe if there was an episode you liked, it might show up in reruns over the summer, but you had to show up and watch. And I was just remembering this. I don't know. So for anyone who is of an older age stage, I am about to turn 60. So that tells you where I am in the generations of life. We did not get our first video cassette recorder until I was in college. I think around 1982 is when we got it. And I had a love affair with soap operas. See, just like you, I'm an earthly person. There are things about the very earthy existence that I love. And I used to love soap operas. I was an ABC soap opera girl, so I watched Ryan's Hope, All My Children, One Life to Live, and General Hospital. And I lived for General Hospital because this was right when Luke and Laura had gotten together and they were on the run to Beecher's Corners looking for the left-handed boy so Frank Smith could be stopped. And through, sorry, I'm laughing at myself. Through my first 2 years of college, I would not take a class at 2:00 because I needed to watch General Hospital. So a core foundation of my college experience blocked out any opportunities that existed at 2:00 because I was not going to miss GH. You know, I had my priorities straight. So when we got our first VCR, which there were two different kinds of VCRs. There was the Betamax and the VHS. The VHS wound up winning the format wars, but we were a Betamax family. But I could now record General Hospital. So now the power of my destiny could be unfolded because I could live life at 2:00. So, okay, but that's not what I was going to talk to you about tonight. So, I hope it's okay that we're rambling here. I'm actually hoping you're asleep by this point, so this won't seem so kooky. But, okay, so I've set the stage for what television was like in the olden days, right? So when I was younger, pre-internet, my cousin had a book that basically was a directory of the television schedules from the 50s up through the 80s. And it was so cool because it helped me remember all of the programs I watched as a child. And as I was contemplating the podcast and the different things I could ramble about, for some reason this book flashed to me. And I didn't have the patience to try and go find the book because I don't need it now, because we have this amazing thing called the internet, this newfangled thing called Wikipedia. And sure enough, all I had to do was Google television seasons 1970, and guess what? It's there. I mean, is this not a magical world we're living in? Like, all you have to do is Google something and it's there, I say with marvel in my voice. So I want to share with you, and this is going to be US centric, so if you live outside of the US, this may not have much meaning to you, but I'll at least try to make it amusing. The 1970-71 television schedule for the US was pure gold if you grew up in my generation. You know, normally when you're going through a schedule, you start at the beginning of the week, but I want to just go right to the gold. I want to start on Friday nights. I don't know if any of you remember the magic of Friday night television in the 1970 and 71, but I'm going to help you remember. We were an ABC family on Friday nights because the first show on ABC of prime time, which was 7 o'clock in Chicago, but 8 o'clock on the East and West coasts, was the Brady Bunch. Now, I know at this point, everyone knows what the Brady Bunch is, but this is early vintage Brady Bunch. Just as an aside, I am the same age as Cindy Brady. So, whenever you watch the Brady Bunch, whatever age Cindy was at the time, that's how old I was at the time. And we all loved the Brady Bunch. What was not to love, right? So we start off with the Brady Bunch. I'm not going to sing the theme song to you. You already know what it is and you're trying to sleep, so I'm not going to give you a theme song to run through your head. But now that we're all doing Zoom meetings, whoever would have thought that we would be living the Zoom version of Brady Bunch for the rest of our lives? God has a sense of humor. The Brady Bunch was followed by the Partridge Family. Now, I don't know that the Partridge Family had much of a reach beyond the US, but let me describe it to you. You had this family, the Partridges, and their father had passed away, so you had the mom, who was played by Shirley Jones. Amazing. And David Cassidy, right, one of the major heartthrobs of the 70s, played her oldest son. And then you had Laurel Partridge, the oldest daughter. And I really should remember everybody else. Was there once the youngest brother, Brian? I don't remember. Oh, Tracy Partridge. Tracy was the youngest girl. And they had a band. And they had this very psychedelic bus. And Danny, I think. I don't remember everybody's name. Reuben Kincaid was their manager, right? Tracy Partridge would play the triangle. And I thought I could play the triangle too. And she had red hair. So that was my in with the Partridge Family, is I had red hair and I could play the triangle. But it had David Cassidy, which as an 8-year-old girl or 9-year-old girl, he was the bomb, right? David Cassidy with that cool feathered hair, right? And I think I love you, but what am I so afraid of? I'm afraid that I'm not sure of, a love there is no cure for. I mean, talk about deep wisdom. And I don't know that anyone but me will remember this, but there was a special Partridge Family episode that guest starred Bobby Sherman. Now, you will not know this about me, but Bobby Sherman was the first man I ever loved. I was 8 years old. And the reason I loved him was because my neighbor up the street, who was 4 years older than me and way cooler, came down the block one day. And I think she was holding a TV guide or a record album. I don't remember which. She explained to me the nuances of why Bobby Sherman was important to love. So I decided then and there, I also loved Bobby Sherman. He had everything that was needed. The cool hair, the bright blue eyes, and he sang this song, Julie, 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 do you love me? And it's going to be a whole other podcast episode when I tell you how at some point in my adult life I actually met Bobby Sherman. But I'm not going to tell you that story right now. But the episode of the Partridge Family with David Cassidy, when Bobby Sherman guest starred, was the highlight of the year. Me and all my girlfriends, they had promoted it in Tiger Beat, which was the magazine we all read. We could not wait for this episode. I don't even remember about what the episode was. All I remember was Bobby and David were together on the screen. You know, this was, again, before the internet. It's not like it is now where you have TMZ outside of every restaurant. Their personas, their availability to their raving lunatic public like me was carefully curated, right? You could only get so much information, and so that was a big deal. So Partridge Family. So you had the Brady Bunch at 8, the Partridge Family at 8:30, and then was Room 222, which I actually don't have a relationship with. I'm sure we watched it, but I don't remember much of it because it wasn't important to me. But then it was followed by The Odd Couple. Phenomenal show, right? Classic sitcom with Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. And now we're into a show that my parents can enjoy. I'm sure my parents did not enjoy Brady Bunch and Partridge Family. They let us watch it to appease the kids, and in all likelihood, my parents were reading a newspaper or something or having a conversation in the kitchen because we were otherwise occupied. But now we get into The Odd Couple, which they liked. But now we move into, at the 10 o'clock hour, we have something that is so 70s. And if you grew up in that era, as soon as I tell you what the show was, I apologize in advance, but you are going to hear the theme song in your head. There's just no way around it. And the show is Love American Style. Go ahead, I'll wait while you sing it. Love American Style, truer than the red, white, and blue. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Love American Style, that's me and you, right? I know, I'm so sorry. While the fireworks go off, right? So for those of you who did not know the nuances of Love American Style, it was this truly kitschy, I'm going to say fairly awful and awesome show that was a revolving cast, you know, sort of like Love Boat or Fantasy Island, where each week were different people, and they were these different risque stories of love and sexiness and as blue humor, I guess, as you can get in the 1970s, which means it was profoundly mild. And I'm sure most of the double entendres went way over my head because I was only 8 and an innocent 8. Back then, being 8 years old, we didn't know all this stuff. So, but I always loved it. So we watched Love American Style. It couldn't have been that bad because my parents let us watch it. So I'm just saying. But that was Friday night, which was an awesome night of television if you were 8 years old. The other night that was so cool was Saturday night. Now, Saturday night, we start with All in the Family, which everyone in the country watched. And it's interesting because Bewitched was up against it on the other station, but we were an All in the family, so I think I just watched Bewitched in reruns, because reruns did exist then, because I loved Bewitched. Of course, what's not to love? Wait, I'm going to just do a Bewitched aside here. So she's a witch, and all she does is have to twinkle her nose, and stuff happens. And what does her husband say? No magic. No magic. I now watch that show and I get so mad at Darren. Darren the character, right? Like, here you marry this magical woman and you are sending her the message that she cannot be trusted with her own knowingness of when and how to apply her magic. She must be controlled. To me, there's this dark theme of Bewitched now as somebody who is mystical and magical. There's a nuance to it that really gets my goat. But Bewitched, anyways, as a kid, I loved it. But think about that message, right? Can you be trusted with your magic that you wouldn't know when and how it can be applied? I'm like, come on, if she has all this power, dude, she's got to know how she can use it. Don't make her into this dumb young thing that would just, put a herd of elephants in your office. She would know better than that. Come on. What kind of message is that sending to all of our future light workers? So if Bewitched ever caused you to give up your magic, my friends, call it back now. Reclaim it from the Darrens of the world. That you can be trusted with your magic. Go team. Okay, so that was my little Bewitched soliloquy. So in terms of what we watched, we had All in the Family, which again, great show, right? Followed by the Mary Tyler Moore Show, right? Another phenomenal show. They had the new Dick Van Dyke Show, which I don't remember what that was. And then Arnie, which I hardly remember. I seem to remember he was a working class guy with a lunchbox. Is that right? I don't know. And then Mission Impossible, which I didn't care for, but I think my dad loved. So I think we watched Mission Impossible, but I didn't really have a relationship with it. We've only gone through 2 nights so far, right? Is anybody else having memory flashbacks? No, you're probably asleep, I hope. Maybe you're asleep by now. So Sunday night, there would be The Wonderful World of Disney, which we always watched. The Jimmy Stewart Show, which I don't remember. Bonanza, which I don't remember watching, but it wouldn't surprise me if we did, because that would be a show my father would like. And then the later shows I don't remember. There was the ABC Sunday Night Movie, Cades County, and The Bold Ones. I don't remember any of those, so I don't know. I probably checked out after that, or my parents put us in bed. I'm sure, my parents loved us, but I'm sure they were happy to bundle us up to bed at some point so they could have time to themselves. So Monday night, I can't quite remember what we always watched, because they had Nanny and the Professor, which I watched, Gunsmoke, and Laugh-In. Now, I totally remember watching Laugh-In, but I absolutely know This would not have been the kind of humor my mother would have liked. My father would have, though, so in all likelihood, we were watching Laugh-In because that's what we wanted and my father wanted. But I just can tell you this is not my mother's humor, so I think we likely were watching Laugh-In. And then there's Here's Lucy, which we watched, right? Anything Lucy did, we watched because she's a genius. And that's Here's Lucy, not to be confused with the older Lucy shows. I think Here's Lucy is the one where she worked for Mr. Mooney in the bank, if I'm not mistaken. And then after Here's Lucy was the Doris Day show, which I don't remember much about, but I remember we liked it. So we watched the Doris Day show. And then the Sonny and Cher show, right? Iconic, hokey, brilliant. We definitely watched the Sonny and Cher show. Again, it's so funny. Now when I think about what the living room must have looked like, I don't think my mother would have liked the Sonny and Cher show. But, they gave in to us. And I really wonder now how much we were allowed to watch, because that would have been on at 9 o'clock in Chicago time. And I don't know at 8 years old that they let us stay up till 10 o'clock. So maybe we got to watch the opening number and then had to go to bed or something. Tuesdays, I don't really have a relationship with anything on the schedule. So there was the Mod Squad, which, again, iconic, but I don't remember watching it. The Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour, which I have some kind of memory of. Ironside, again, don't really remember that. And Ponderosa, which I don't remember us watching. So I don't know what we were doing on Tuesday nights. The other things that were on Tuesday night were Hawaii Five-0, which I think we may have watched, but I didn't like. Also Cannon was on, if you guys remember Cannon. And then Marcus Welby. So again, I don't necessarily have an emotional tie to any shows on Tuesday. Wednesday, well, the Carol Burnett show is on Wednesday, right? Oh my God, that was brilliant. We loved watching that in our family. We all would watch it together and we would laugh, and so many warm memories of watching Carol Burnett. So that was on Wednesdays. And then we watched Medical Center, which I don't remember much about. I just remember liking it. Wasn't that the one where Chad Everett was the doctor? He was very handsome, which I think is why we watched it. If my mother thought somebody was very handsome, we watched. My father probably liked, Goldie Hawn and the other Go-Go Girls on Laugh-In, and my mother liked it. There was a nice, handsome man. And we, of course, then liked the David Cassidys of the world, so everybody got something. But, so Carol Burnett show on Wednesday, followed by Medical Center. And then it was followed by Mannix, which I remember we watched as well. We watched Mannix in our house. What was interesting is opposite of the Carol Burnett show, on ABC, they had Bewitched and The Courtship of Eddie's Father, which I'm not sure we watched when they were in first run. I think we probably watched those in syndication, because I absolutely remember watching both of those shows, but there's no way we would have watched those instead of Carol Burnett in our house. So we were definitely a Carol Burnett family. And then Thursdays, there's nothing on Thursdays that stands out to me. Alias Smith and Jones, which I don't remember watching. CBS has a whole bunch of shows I don't remember. I'll share with you what the names are if you guys remember them. Bearcats. I don't know what that is. Me and the Chimp, which sounds phenomenal. I'm sure it's a classic. I just never watched it. My World and Welcome to It. And then My Three Sons, which of course I know. Again, I think we watched a lot of that in syndication. The Flip Wilson show, I think we must have watched, because I have visions of it in my head, but I don't remember that it was a must-watch. But we watched it. And then they also sang the Dean Martin show, which sounds like something we would have watched, but I don't think we were into that. And then there was CBS Thursday Night Movie, also Owen Marshall, Counselor at Law, which I don't recall. So I don't know why this just brought back so many wonderful memories for me, thinking about what it was like watching television as a family back then. We all had to agree on the show. Now we have, how many shows? We can watch a gajillion shows, right? In our home, we typically subscribe to Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime, and then through my cable, I have the HBO Max and Peacock, and it's an absurd amount of content. And my husband and I will look at each other like, what do you want to watch? I don't know. I don't think there's anything on. How often do we do that now? Isn't that just absurd when you think about, you basically had 3 to 4 options back then, and you found something and you watched it together. There was no pausing for the commercials or fast forwarding through them, right? Everybody had to use the bathroom at the same time. Did you ever hear the story, the anecdote that the I Love Lucy episode where little Ricky is born, everybody was watching, and there was a commercial break at some point in that episode. And it's like everybody in the country went to the bathroom at the same time and flushed their toilets. And it created a problem with water pressure in several metropolitan areas. Isn't that funny? Can you imagine most of the country watching the same television show? And we all go to the bathroom at the same time and flush, what that means. So that happened. That's an anecdote. It's a very popular anecdote about the episode when little Ricky was born in I Love Lucy. So this is just one season, right? There's more seasons we can talk about. But I really the impetus was to share that Friday night phenomenal programming of the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family and Love American Style. Such a part of my history. I used to babysit this little boy, and I think at some point, it may have been a few years later, on Saturday nights, they did the Love Boat and the Fantasy Island. And maybe they moved Love American Style with it, because I seem to remember the 3 shows together. And I would babysit, and the parents would be gone through those 3 shows. So I would get my, teenage girls' snacks from White Hen Pantry, because we didn't have a 7-Eleven back then. And I would get a snack for each show. So, I would have the snowballs, the coconut snowball, Hostess snowballs for one of the shows, and chocolate bar for another, and a bag of chips for another. Again, food and television well intertwined in my consciousness. So I'm hoping that these rambles and these memories and whatever your experience was growing up, maybe you were one of the younger generation who got to grow up watching your favorite video over and over and over again. We didn't get to do that. One of my sister and I, one of our favorite shows growing up was Cinderella. It was the Rodgers and Hammerstein version of Cinderella. And Leslie Ann Warren, I believe, played Cinderella. And Stuart Damon played the prince. Stuart Damon would go on to play Alan Quatermain in General Hospital. Thank you very much. And it was a musical. And my sister and I would make a blanket fort. I'm broadcasting to you from my blanket fort. So we would make a blanket fort underneath the piano bench with the old Afghan my mother made, which was black and multicolored. And we would have snacks because, you had to have snacks. And we would lay there and sing along. And at that point, it was only on once a year. You could not get your Cinderella fix any other way. So here's to all of us who would wait all year for Cinderella when we were growing up. So here's to all the warm memories. You know, it reminds me of, I don't know, the warmth of these memories. And my hope is that there's something lovely that you're connecting with as we walk down memory lane. And the angels and I are wishing you a good night's sleep. You are awesome. You are loved. You are magical. And I am deeply, deeply grateful for the gift of you. So you have a good night's sleep, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.